The room goes silent. A single insult cuts through the air like a blade, and suddenly every eye turns toward you. Your blood surges, anger pounds in your chest, and in that moment, everyone waits. What will you do? Will you lash out, defend yourself, or let them see you break? This is the test most people fail. They mistake loudness for strength, aggression for authority, and anger for power. But the truth is brutal. The moment you lose control of your reaction, you hand over your power. You let your opponent decide who you are. The Stoics believe the strongest voice in the room is often the one that speaks the least, but with the greatest weight. Real power isn't in the sharpest insult or the loudest shout. It's in the discipline to stay calm when provoked, in the ability to respond with wisdom when the world expects retaliation. That is the rare strength few ever master. And here's the secret. The most devastating way to silence an opponent is not by attacking back. It's by refusing to let them control you. The ancient Stoics mastered responses so simple, so disarming, that they transformed conflict into clarity and insults into opportunities. These responses didn't just protect their dignity, they commanded respect, even from enemies. What you're about to discover are 5 of these timeless Stoic responses, tested across centuries, from Roman emperors to modern leaders. They are not tricks or clever one-liners. They are mental weapons, tools to end conflict without losing your composure, to disarm aggression without raising your voice, and to reveal truth without spilling anger. Each response carries a different kind of power. One will force your critic to stumble, revealing that they never had substance to begin with. Another will instantly turn an attack into cooperation, leaving your opponent with nothing left to fight about. And one, perhaps the most lethal of all, requires only silence, and yet it exposes arrogance more brutally than any argument ever could. But let me warn you, these responses demand more than memory. They require presence. They demand the self-mastery to deliver them with calm conviction rather than sarcasm, with dignity rather than pride. If you wield them correctly, they will reshape the way people see you. They'll turn heated confrontations into moments of respect. They'll build your reputation as someone who cannot be shaken, no matter the provocation. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best answer to anger is silence." Epictetus reminded us, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." The Stoics knew that our true strength lies not in controlling others, but in mastering ourselves. That's why these 5 responses are so powerful. They expose the weakness of others while proving the strength within you. So if you've ever left an argument wishing you had handled it better, if you've ever lost sleep replaying what you should have said, this is for you. Because once you learn these 5 responses, you won't just survive conflict. You'll command it. You'll walk away with your dignity intact, while your critics reveal more about themselves than they ever could about you. And if you want to build unshakable composure and join a community of modern Stoics, stay with me till the end and subscribe to True Stoic Way. What follows isn't just advice, it's a discipline, a way to carry yourself through every battle of words with the calm, unshakable presence of a Stoic. There is a moment in every confrontation where the outcome is decided long before the words are finished. Most people, when attacked, immediately leap to defend themselves. They fire back with facts, raise their tone, or throw accusations of their own. It feels natural to fight when provoked, but the truth is that this reflex almost always gives power away. The Stoics knew a far greater strength: to disarm aggression with calm curiosity. Instead of rushing to defend your pride, you can pause and simply respond, "I see your point. Help me understand your reasoning." This phrase seems almost too gentle, almost like surrender. Yet it is anything but surrender. It is control. I learned this lesson in a tense project meeting years ago. After weeks of research and careful preparation, I presented a proposal I believed would move our team forward. I barely finished the overview before a colleague cut me off sharply. "You're completely out of touch with reality. You don't understand anything about the current market." The words stung. My heart raced. My mind filled instantly with every statistic and expert opinion I could use to defend myself. I wanted to fight, but something inside reminded me that fighting would only dig me deeper. So instead, I took a slow breath, looked him directly in the eye, and said, "I see your point, David. Can you help me understand your reasoning?" Which specific aspects seem unrealistic to you? The room grew silent. All attention shifted to him. And then something fascinating happened. He stumbled. His confidence broke under the weight of his own words. He muttered vague explanations, searched for details, and finally admitted he hadn't studied the proposal carefully. In that moment, without raising my voice or defending my work, the truth revealed itself. His criticism had no foundation, and everyone saw it. This is the power of curiosity. Most attacks are driven by emotion rather than reason. People lash out because they are frustrated, insecure, or eager to display dominance. Their words are blunt weapons, not careful arguments. By calmly asking them to explain, you shift the battlefield. Instead of being forced into defense, you make them carry the weight of proof. You don't shout, you don't insult. You simply hold up a mirror and let their emptiness show itself. And yet, even when the criticism does hold merit, this response still serves you. By asking for reasoning, you invite dialogue rather than battle. You show humility, the willingness to learn, and the strength to place truth above ego. This balance, firm yet open, was exactly what the Stoics admired in Socrates. He declared that the only true wisdom is knowing you know nothing, and he lived by asking questions that revealed ignorance without ever attacking directly. The Stoics inherited that practice, recognizing that a calm question can reveal more than a furious defense ever could. The key is tone. This response must not drip with sarcasm or condescension. If you sneer, you turn it into a weapon. But if you truly sound curious, you transform the dynamic. People expect anger in return for anger. When instead they encounter composure and interest, it unsettles them. Their script collapses. They are forced to engage with logic, often realizing they never had any. Think of how this plays out in everyday life. A teenager shouts, "You never understand me." The easy response is anger. The painful response is silence. But the Stoic response is calm curiosity. That's a strong point. Can you help me understand what you mean? Suddenly, the child who is prepared for a fight is invited to explain. And in explaining, their anger begins to fade. Or imagine the chaos of online debates, where insults fly faster than thoughts. Someone comments, "That's the dumbest thing I've ever read." Instead of trading insult for insult, you reply, "Interesting. Could you explain which part doesn't make sense to you?" Most trolls vanish when faced with the demand for reason, and those who remain are forced to move from insult to substance. Even in the workplace, when a manager dismisses your work with, "Your approach isn't practical," the same calm response redirects the discussion. "I see your point. Could you walk me through why you think it wouldn't work?" What was a potential clash now becomes an opportunity to collaborate. The brilliance of this approach is that it protects your dignity no matter what follows. If the other person has no reasoning, they reveal their weakness. If they do have a valid concern, you gain insight that makes you stronger. Either way, you never lose. You remain composed, in control, and respected. This is what the Stoics meant by strength. Not the ability to dominate others, but the ability to govern oneself. In a world where most people are slaves to their emotions, the one who stays calm becomes a giant. The more you practice this response, the more you condition yourself to pause instead of explode, to ask instead of accuse. And over time, you'll notice something extraordinary. People begin to treat you differently. They sense that you cannot be rattled, and so they respect you more deeply than those who are quick to fight. The next time someone hurls vague criticism or tries to provoke you, resist the urge to strike back. Instead, breathe. Look them in the eye. Speak with genuine curiosity. "I see your point. Help me understand your reasoning." Let them reveal themselves. Sometimes they will collapse. Sometimes they will contribute. But either way, you remain unshaken. In moments like these, remembering Stoic wisdom keeps your power intact. Exactly what we practice here in true Stoic way. There is a rare kind of victory that doesn't come from proving someone else wrong, but from owning the truth so fully that your critic has nowhere left to go. Most people, when confronted with blame, react in predictable ways. They make excuses. They explain why circumstances were against them. They point fingers at others, or at least try to soften the accusation. But the Stoic path teaches something radically different. the strength of strategic surrender. Sometimes the quickest way to win is to say, "You're absolutely right, and here's what I'm going to do about it." I learned this lesson in a meeting I will never forget. Our team had been working with a client for 6 months. There had been delays, some due to shifting requirements, others due to unforeseen challenges, but the result was undeniable. We had missed deadlines more than once. And then, in a tense meeting, the client finally voiced what everyone had been thinking. In front of the entire room, he said, "Your team has missed the deadline again. This is becoming a serious pattern, and it's affecting our confidence in your ability to deliver." His words hung heavy. My team looked at me, expecting I would explain. They knew I had plenty of reasons ready. Scope changes, resource issues, technical challenges, and all of them were true. But in that instant, I realized that defending myself would only confirm his doubts. The more I justified, the more I admitted there was a problem. So instead, I looked him directly in the eye and said, "You're absolutely right, and here's what I'm going to do about it. Starting this week, we're implementing a new tracking system to catch potential delays early. You'll get weekly progress updates every Friday, so there are no surprises. And for this project, I will personally ensure we deliver by the revised deadline we agree on today." The change in the room was immediate. His shoulders relaxed. His voice softened. The energy shifted from confrontation to collaboration. Suddenly, instead of attacking, he was asking constructive questions about the new system, suggesting improvements, even volunteering ideas to help. The criticism that could have crushed us became the foundation of renewed trust. This is the psychology of disarming critics. When someone points out a flaw, they want one of two things. Either they want you to squirm and make excuses, which only proves their doubts were justified, or they want to see that you take the problem seriously and will fix it. By choosing the second option, by owning the problem and presenting a clear plan of action, you cut off their attack at the root. There is nothing left to fight about. The moment you accept responsibility, their hostility dissolves into cooperation. Epictetus captured this principle perfectly. Don't explain your philosophy, embody it. Anyone can talk about accountability. Anyone can preach responsibility. But when you immediately take ownership and commit to action, you live the philosophy instead of just speaking it. This embodiment of wisdom earns respect in ways that explanations never will. You are no longer the person under attack. You are the leader, the problem solver, the one who transforms criticism into progress. And this principle applies far beyond business. Think about a relationship. Your partner tells you, "You never listen to me anymore." The instinct is to defend yourself, to say, "That's not true, I've been busy," or "You don't understand how much I'm dealing with." But imagine responding instead with, "You're right, and here's what I'm going to do. Tonight I'm putting my phone away at dinner so you have my full attention." That single act changes the energy. The argument shifts from blame to healing. Or think of a friendship. A close friend says, "You've been distant lately." Instead of arguing, you could answer, "You're right, and I'm going to fix it. Let's plan a day this weekend just for us." The conflict dissolves because the acknowledgement matters more than the excuse. In leadership, this principle is even more powerful. A manager who hears, "Your team feels you're not communicating clearly," could either defend himself endlessly or say, "You're right, and here's how I'm going to improve. I'll send a weekly summary to make sure everyone's aligned." That manager earns respect not by words, but by action. The crucial thing here is discernment. This response works only when the criticism is valid. If someone attacks you unfairly for things outside your control, it is not wisdom to accept false blame. But when the fault is real, even if only in part, acknowledging it with humility and offering a concrete solution is the most disarming move you can make. You remove the critic's weapon because you give them exactly what they wanted: change. And here's the unexpected result. People who once criticized you often become your strongest allies. Why? Because they see you listen. They see you act. They see that you value truth over ego. In a world where so many deflect responsibility, the person who embraces it shines with rare integrity. That integrity builds trust, and trust builds influence. True Stoic way isn't about excuses, it's about solutions. When you embody this response, you are not weak, you are the strongest person in the room. You prove that your identity isn't fragile, that your worth isn't threatened by admitting fault. Instead, you turn every valid criticism into a stepping stone for growth. So the next time someone confronts you with a painful truth, resist the urge to defend. Don't waste energy on excuses. Look them in the eye and say with calm conviction, "You're absolutely right, and here's what I'm going to do about it." Then follow through. What was once a fight becomes a partnership. What was once a threat becomes respect. And in that transformation, you'll discover the quiet, unshakable power that only Stoicism can teach. There are times when the sharpest blade you can wield in a confrontation is not your anger, not your defense, but a simple question that forces the other person to look in the mirror. When someone tries to provoke you with an insult or a sneer, the instinct is to explain yourself, to defend your reputation, to strike back with equal force. But the Stoic way turns the tables completely. Instead of retaliating, you smile with calm composure and say, "That's an interesting perspective. What made you think of it?" In that moment, the battle changes. You no longer carry the burden of defense. They must carry the burden of explanation, and very often, they reveal far more about their weakness than about yours. I once saw this used beautifully at a dinner party. A friend of mine, Rachel, had built her career as a successful freelance designer. She had clients across industries, worked tirelessly to deliver results, and lived with the freedom she had earned through discipline. But at that dinner, a man she had just met leaned back in his chair, smirked and said, "Freelancing must be nice. Basically getting paid to play around on a computer all day without any real responsibility." His words were meant to sting. They were designed to diminish her work, to provoke her into defending herself so that he could continue mocking. Everyone at the table heard the comment. The moment grew tense. Rachel could have listed her client roster, explained her long hours, fired back about his ignorance. But instead, she smiled, completely calm, and said, "That's an interesting perspective. What made you think of it?" Her tone was curious, not sarcastic. The room shifted. Suddenly the man, expecting her anger, was caught off guard. He stammered, "Well, it seems like..." His words fell apart. Finally, he admitted he had no idea what freelancing involved. In less than 30 seconds, he revealed his prejudice and ignorance to everyone at the table. Rachel didn't need to defend herself. He condemned himself with his own answer. This is the psychology of the response. Most people who provoke us do not act from knowledge, but from emotion or bias. They lash out to assert power, to look clever, to impress others at our expense. Their attacks are shallow. When you calmly ask why they think the way they do, you pull the rug out from under them. The moment they try to justify their insult, they expose the hollowness behind it. It is a mirror they cannot escape. They prepared to fight. They did not prepare to explain. And in that gap, their weakness is revealed. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." This response embodies that wisdom perfectly. The person who insults you wants to drag you down to their level, angry, defensive, reactive. But you refuse. You stay composed, curious, dignified. The contrast is so sharp that everyone watching sees the difference. They see their pettiness, and they see your calm strength. In that silence, respect shifts toward you. What makes this even more powerful is that it works in almost every setting. In workplace politics, for example, imagine a colleague sneering during a meeting. That idea is ridiculous. Do you even know what you're talking about? Instead of bristling and launching into a heated defense, you respond calmly. "That's an interesting perspective. What made you think of it?" Now the spotlight is on them. If they have no reasoning, they falter. If they do, you gain clarity while showing composure. Either way, you win. In the chaos of online debates, this method is just as effective. Trolls thrive on conflict. They post comments like, "Only an idiot would believe this," hoping you'll explode so they can keep feeding the fire. But if you reply, "That's an interesting perspective. What makes you think that?" Suddenly, The troll has nowhere to go. They must shift from insult to explanation, and most vanish because they were never there for dialogue in the first place. Even within families, where emotions run deepest, this response has power. A relative makes a harsh comment at a holiday gathering. You always think you're better than everyone else. The old you would argue, defend, deny. But the Stoic you stays calm and says, "That's an interesting perspective. What made you think of it?" The dynamic changes. They must explain, and often in explaining, they realize their words came from jealousy or misunderstanding rather than truth. The tension breaks not because you fought, but because you refused to. The key to all of this is sincerity. If your tone carries sarcasm, the effect is ruined. You must sound genuinely curious, as though you truly want to understand. That sincerity turns the insult back on the speaker without you lifting a finger. It is grace disguised as inquiry, dignity disguised as dialogue. And when delivered with calmness, it not only protects you, it teaches everyone watching what real strength looks like. This is why the Stoic path is so rare. Most people want revenge. They want to humiliate those who humiliate them. But in chasing that, they become what they hate. The Stoic doesn't need to descend into pettiness. He lets others expose themselves. And in that restraint, he shows the highest form of mastery. So the next time someone tries to bait you with a careless insult, remember, you do not need to defend your worth. You do not need to fight on their terms. Look at them with calm eyes, smile, and say, "That's an interesting perspective. What made you think of it?" Then let silence do its work. They will either apologize, stumble, or double down and make themselves look worse. In all cases, you remain untouchable. This is what we train ourselves in at True Stoic Way, letting others reveal their own weakness while we stay composed. There are responses that people expect when they come at you with anger. They expect defensiveness. They expect excuses. They expect you to push back and make the confrontation worse. But what they never expect is gratitude. That is why the simple phrase, "I appreciate you sharing that with me," is such a powerful Stoic tool. It takes the wind out of hostility in an instant, transforming a fight into a conversation and an adversary into a partner. I learned the value of this when I first adopted a rescue dog. I had no idea that while I was away at work, he barked constantly during the morning hours. One evening, as I was collecting my mail, my neighbor stormed across the yard. His face was tight with anger as he shouted, "Your dog is driving the whole neighborhood crazy. He barks nonstop from 6 in the morning until you get home. It's completely inconsiderate, and some of us are thinking of calling animal control." His tone was sharp enough to pierce through me. My first instinct was to defend myself, to explain that I had only just adopted the dog, that I was already working on training, that he could have approached me in a more civil way. But I paused, breathed, and instead said, "I really appreciate you sharing that with me. I had no idea it was happening, and I'm genuinely glad you came to me directly, rather than letting the frustration build up." In that moment, everything changed. His voice softened, his shoulders relaxed. Suddenly, he was no longer an angry neighbor trying to attack me. He became a fellow dog owner offering help. He shared training tips, recommended a local specialist, even gave me his number so I could stay updated. What began as an angry confrontation ended in cooperation. Gratitude had turned fire into water. This response works because it completely disrupts the script people carry into conflict. When someone approaches you with anger, they prepare for resistance. They've rehearsed your excuses in their mind, prepared their counter-arguments, braced themselves for a fight. But when you thank them sincerely, you throw that entire script away. You give them no enemy to push against. Instead, you validate their feelings and transform them from an attacker into someone whose opinion matters. That shift opens the door for collaboration where there was only hostility. The Stoics understood this principle deeply. Seneca once wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." Gratitude closes the door on conflict and opens the door to new possibilities. When you thank someone for their honesty, even if it's delivered harshly, you turn the end of hostility into the beginning of cooperation. It demonstrates strength, not weakness, because it shows you are secure enough in yourself to receive feedback without breaking. And this applies far beyond arguments with neighbors. In the workplace, imagine receiving blunt feedback from a manager. Your presentation was unclear, and the client was confused. The natural instinct is to defend yourself, to say, well, the client didn't prepare, or the brief wasn't clear. But if instead you respond, I appreciate you sharing that with me. I want to get better at communicating, so thank you for pointing that out. The entire tone changes. Suddenly, your manager is no longer frustrated. They are invested in helping you improve. Gratitude transforms tension into mentorship. In parenting, this principle can work wonders. A teenager might shout, "You never listen to me." The easy response is to argue, to insist that you do listen. But what if you say, "I appreciate you telling me that. It's important for me to hear." The argument deflates. You show them that their feelings matter. And in that moment, their anger softens because they feel understood. Gratitude opens the door to connection where defensiveness would have built a wall. Even in friendships, this response has extraordinary power. A friend says, "You've been distant. You don't seem to care anymore." Instead of replying with, "That's not true," you take a breath and say, "I appreciate you being honest with me. I don't want you to feel neglected, and I'm grateful you said something." What could have become a fracture in the friendship instead becomes an opportunity to strengthen it. What makes this response so effective is that it reframes the critic. Instead of an enemy tearing you down, they become someone who has given you a gift: perspective. Gratitude elevates you above pettiness. It shows that you are more committed to growth and peace than to pride and defense. And in that shift, you not only preserve your dignity, you often gain respect. Of course, discernment matters. This response works best when the criticism comes from someone who is frustrated but genuinely wants resolution. It is not designed for those who attack purely to hurt. But in the vast majority of daily conflicts, neighbors, co-workers, family, friends, people lash out because they feel powerless or unheard. Gratitude gives them power in a healthy way, and in return they stop fighting and start helping. The beauty of this approach is how it transforms not just the other person, but you. Every time you choose gratitude over defensiveness, you train your mind to remain unshaken. You begin to see conflict not as a threat to your pride, but as an opportunity to practice self-mastery. Gratitude becomes your armor, and dignity becomes your weapon. So the next time someone comes at you with sharp words and frustration, resist the urge to defend. Pause, breathe, and with sincerity say, "I appreciate you sharing that with me." Watch how the walls crumble and the air changes. What began as an attack will often end as an alliance. Gratitude is power, and that's why our community at True Stoic Way grows stronger every day. There are moments in life when words are not the most powerful response. Silence is. Most people believe that the only way to defend themselves in a confrontation is to argue back, to prove their worth, to fight fire with fire. But the Stoics understood something deeper. Sometimes the most devastating answer is no answer at all, followed only by a calm acknowledgement. A silent pause, followed by the words, "Thank you for that insight." This combination carries a weight that anger never could. I remember the lesson vividly during a business presentation years ago. I was pitching a marketing strategy to a room of potential partners, some of them competitors. Everything was flowing smoothly until one man, clearly threatened by the proposal, cut me off. His voice was dripping with arrogance as he said, "I'm not sure we can trust marketing advice from someone with such obviously limited experience. Maybe we should hear from someone who actually knows what they're talking about." His words landed like a slap. The room went silent, waiting to see what I would do. My instinct screamed at me to fire back, to list my credentials, to point out his own failures. But instead, I stopped speaking. I held his gaze in silence for 3 long seconds, then said calmly and sincerely, "Thank you for that insight." The effect was instant. The silence allowed his insult to echo in the room, exposed in its full ugliness. People shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Some looked embarrassed for him. I didn't need to say anything more. His words condemned him. By refusing to react emotionally, I highlighted the contrast between his pettiness and my composure. After the meeting, several attendees approached me to apologize for his behavior, and the contract we were competing for ultimately went to my team, partly because his unprofessionalism had become so obvious. This response works because silence creates space. In those few seconds of pause, everyone in the room has time to process what was said. Without your anger to distract them, they see the raw truth of the aggressor's words for what they are: bitter, insecure, or petty. Your calm acknowledgement, "Thank you for that insight," turns the spotlight onto their behavior instead of your defense. People stop wondering if their criticism is valid and start questioning why they chose to express it so poorly. Epictetus captured the essence of this strategy in his timeless wisdom. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. You cannot control whether someone insults you. You cannot control the venom in their words, but you can control the silence that follows, and in that silence, you reveal the strength of your discipline. It is not weakness to remain silent. It is mastery. It is the visible proof that you refuse to let another person dictate your state of mind. This method is especially powerful in public situations. In political debates, for example, one candidate may hurl a cutting remark meant to humiliate the other. Instead of firing back, imagine the second candidate pausing, holding eye contact, and then calmly saying, "Thank you for that insight." The audience would feel the weight of the insult far more than if it had been met with shouting. The silence would magnify the aggressor's lack of composure. In everyday public settings, the same principle applies. Picture someone shouting at you in a crowded place, a commuter snapping on the train, a stranger at a store venting their frustration. The instinct is to meet aggression with aggression, but a silent pause followed by, "Thank you for that insight," shifts the power. Suddenly the aggressor looks small, and you look unshaken. Everyone watching can see who is truly in control. Even online, in the storm of social media where hostility thrives, this principle holds. Someone writes a cruel comment meant to bait you into a fight. Instead of arguing for hours in a thread that goes nowhere, you reply only with, "Thank you for that insight," and then you stop. The silence that follows speaks louder than any argument. They expected you to fight. When you don't, they lose their grip on you. The secret to making this response work lies in sincerity. Your tone must be calm, not mocking. If you sound sarcastic, it becomes an attack. If you sound composed, it becomes a display of dignity. The pause is crucial. Without it, your words may feel automatic. With it, you show you have taken control of your reaction. In that silence, your self-mastery becomes undeniable. What makes this response so devastating is that it forces the aggressor to sit with their own behavior. They prepared for your anger, but you offered none. They braced for your defense, but you gave none. Instead, you displayed composure so profound that it made their hostility look childish in comparison. And often, this is enough to turn the tide completely. Others begin to side with you, not because of what you said, but because of how you carried yourself. This is the essence of Stoicism. Strength is not in having the sharpest tongue or the loudest voice. Strength is in remaining unbroken when others try to shake you. A pause, a breath, a calm acknowledgement. These are the weapons of the wise. They turn insults into mirrors, reflecting the attacker's character back at them. They remind you that your worth is not determined by what others say, but by how you choose to respond. So the next time someone lashes out, hold yourself still. Let the silence hang heavy. Look them in the eye and then say, "Thank you for that insight." Then move forward, untouched. You'll find that not only do you keep your dignity intact, but you also win the respect of everyone who witnessed your composure. Every pause you master builds your inner fortress, the path we walk together in true Stoic way. When you look back at all 5 responses, a clear pattern emerges. Each one is different in form, but all share the same essence. Control yourself and let others reveal themselves. Whether it is asking someone to explain their reasoning, acknowledging a valid criticism with decisive action, inviting a critic to expose their own prejudice, responding to hostility with gratitude, or pausing in silence before offering a calm acknowledgement, every method is built on the same foundation. You don't fight on their terms. You don't let your emotions run the show. You stay rooted in dignity while the other person struggles with their own. This is why Stoic wisdom is timeless. 2,000 years ago, Marcus Aurelius sat in the chaos of the Roman Empire and wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That line captures the heart of everything we've just explored. You cannot control what others say to you. You cannot control whether they insult you, misunderstand you, or even deliberately try to humiliate you. But you can control what happens next. You can control your tone, your breath, your silence, your words. And in that choice lies the difference between chaos and composure, between weakness and true strength. Think about what happens when you lose control. You lash out in anger, and for a few moments it feels satisfying. But afterwards, you regret the words. You replay the conversation in your mind, wishing you had stayed calm. You lie awake, thinking of what you should have said. That is the trap the Stoics teach us to avoid. Because every time you react with fury, you hand power to the person who provoked you. You let them dictate your state of mind. Now picture the alternative. Picture yourself standing calm in the storm, your voice steady, your eyes clear, your response simple and precise. You do not get dragged down. You do not waste energy. You walk away knowing that you revealed your strength, while the other revealed only themselves. That is what these 5 responses offer you. Freedom. Freedom from the tyranny of anger. Freedom from being enslaved by other people's behavior. Freedom to walk through life with unshakable confidence. And the best part is that you can begin practicing today. These aren't abstract ideas locked away in philosophy books. They are tools you can carry into every conversation, every argument, every unexpected attack. The next time a colleague criticizes you unfairly, resist the urge to fight. Ask for their reasoning. The next time a loved one calls you out, instead of making excuses, acknowledge it and act. The next time someone tries to diminish you with a careless remark, turn it back with curiosity. The next time anger comes packaged as advice, thank them for their honesty. And the next time someone goes too far, pause in silence and let their own words echo against them. Try it once, and you will feel the difference. Try it often, and it will become second nature. You'll begin to notice how quickly tempers cool when you refuse to add fuel to the fire. You'll see how respect grows when you embody composure rather than chaos. And over time, you'll realize that this practice doesn't just change your conversations, it changes who you are. You become the one who cannot be rattled, the one people trust in moments of conflict, the one who carries quiet authority wherever you go. This is the heart of Stoicism. Strength is not about dominating others, but mastering yourself. The Stoics never promised that the world would stop provoking us. They promised that if we cultivate discipline, the provocations of the world would no longer control us. That promise still stands today. So let this be your invitation. Don't just listen to these 5 responses. Use them. Try them. Carry them into your daily life. Test them in the moments that matter most. When anger rises, when criticism stings, when insults tempt you to react. That is your training ground. And every time you choose composure over chaos, you grow stronger. Every time you pause instead of exploding, you build another stone in the fortress of your character. Every time you let others reveal themselves, you reveal the power of your own self-mastery. If this wisdom helped you, share it with someone who needs it. Spread the strength. Because the more people carry this discipline, the more we transform the way conflict is handled in our families, our workplaces, our communities. And if you are ready to go further, to not just learn Stoic responses, but to live Stoic resilience, then join us. This is the path we walk together, and this is the brotherhood we are building. Subscribe to True Stoic Way. Leave a comment with your own experience. Grow your unshakable strength with us. Because in the end, your reactions define you more than your circumstances ever will. And here, we choose to define ourselves with composure, dignity, and the timeless wisdom of the Stoics.